I think it's coming along better this time. Yes, and we are live here on YouTube, waiting for Instagram to be ready. Let's confirm the volumes are all right, video is all right, audio seems all right. Okay, good, good. Let's begin. Tonight on June 6th, 2023. Still waiting a little bit for Instagram. In the meantime, hello, people from the internet. Welcome back to one of our sessions here from A-létheia Speaking Club, the Speak Up Club. Oh my God, I'm butchering my own name. The Speak Up Club here presenting a new topic. And of course, before we do, the we begin with the service properly. We need to make the disclaimer we always do. It is not really our intention here in A-létheia to be preaching. Thank you. To be boasting or to be promoting any type of ideology, none whatsoever. The only intention that we have, sorry, with our videos is offer a service to mostly the people that follow us in our social media that tend to be our students, have been our students or are our students at the moment. And the service is simply just to expand a little bit more on topics that we work on them with many of our classes, expanding on ways that we possibly sometimes cannot really afford to during class because time purposes and other different limitations. And we use this space to give you that chance of putting in practice many of the gimmicks and tricks and methodology that we apply to our classes here, and while I try to develop a speech in one of these topics that I mentioned before. And of course, it's not really an easy job to do since I have to do it live. I get really nervous. I don't know, guys, if you have ever compared to what I used to look like at the beginning of each one of the videos. I was drenched in sweat, most of them, because being nervous. That's how my body reflects it. I'm really sorry because, you know, being a new here on the web doesn't really help me controlling too much how I'm supposed to look 100% of the time. Sometimes I wish I could look better. But well, we are reaching. We're reaching there somehow. Anyway, regarding our topic tonight, the topic tonight is a continuation of a topic before mentioned in this channel that was related to the idea of uh, fix this a little bit better. Uh, I don't think I'm coming out to center. Maybe this way. Yeah, this is way better. All right. Well, the topic that we mentioned before, that is toxic masculinity. And specifically this time around, we are going to be mentioning one more chapter of this issue of toxic masculinity in our current day to day, but compared to, or yes, basically confronted to the trope that it is really popular today, that is the superhero trope, the hero trope. Understanding that this hero is someone that it is outstanding in many different ways because this person sticks out from a group, risking their own well-being in order to protect, save, or simply just change the way things are going and happening because someone messed up. Okay, so that's what the hero is supposed to do in each one of these stories. In a way, we can say that every story in reality, as long as it is a fiction story, goes on the same idea of what the hero is, but we are focusing here specifically with the type of hero that I would have to say mostly superhero, in all these new uh, tendencies, and I mean new because of their popularity, but not new because in reality they have always existed in fiction. We have known of Superman for more than 50 years. We have known of Batman. We have known of, I don't know, Hercules even for longer than that. And that's in the Western world. And we got the Asian world has its own, their own superheroes everywhere. Some of them have been so popular that they have transcended the time and the media in which humanity originally thought of them. And where you can see different representations of them in Korean manga, Korean manwha, and of course the impact that these have in movies, in cinema, in action TV, etc., etc. So it's a full world interconnected of things that we need to consider because for the simple reason that if it is popular, it is because it's mentioned in some interest that is valid on today's discourse, public discourse. There is that interest of finding, seeing, following someone that represents that uniqueness, that unique quality of being better, better than anyone, being a hero. So a superhero today is that situation that we fantasize the most. And specifically, if we understand that the majority of people that consume this art obviously begin by being men. Not to say that women don't enjoy it. Of course, women enjoy it pretty much, as much. But there is a connection with the male population, just because uh, we all know that the majority of the personification of a proper pure hero tends to be a male character. Okay, very few female characters manage to get that high position. There's no one higher than Superman, and Superman is a man. There's no one higher than Goku, and Goku is a man. I mean, you can have inside of superhero stories like Dragon Ball stories or like One Piece stories, female characters that can be really really strong, really really dominant. But at the very end, they always portray men as the ultimate possessor and enforcer of strength, ultimate strength. And of course, the hero tends to be that one that defeats that force, and also it is represented by a male character in the majority of the cases. So that is something that can be connected with, I mean, for those people that like to consider that there needs to be equal representation in everything we watch in fiction. There is something to be considered in terms of why is it that we still project men in such a way when in reality men don't behave in such heroic forms. And I'm speaking from the very shameful position of being a man myself. I mean, there are many different things that I can compare with my life to, with the reality of what I see in the day to day. On the one hand, for instance, the age that I am right now, 43, I can see that there are many men that are so much better than me in many different aspects. If I have to compare myself with them, they are much more athletic at that age. They have managed their finances way better. They own many more things, and possibly they began with nothing as I did myself. And still, you can say that they have become more successful, economically speaking, or even academically speaking, too. Um, I admire many of them. I feel sometimes that I envy them, but I use them as my inspiration to, for me to pursue the same higher levels in how I make my lifestyle, my experience in life, experience on this earth, a pleasant one for me, for myself, and for my family. So, of course, these people are people that I admire, and I consider that they set an incredible example of what it is to, conquer every difficulty in life, conquer every burden, obstacle, etc., etc., etc. But then again, that group of men, though is a huge bunch, is not really the type of one that are really close to me. Are those ones that I actually read about, check about, you know, proper heroes are not really that abundant anyway. They are up there in a universe that is in such way a little distant from this reality. So of course, then you start considering, okay, what about these other real life heroes, the ones that I get to know? And I am sad to say that I don't find many in many different aspects of life. Like not in the best way for finances. I always see people in that basically they struggle with the same shortcomings, economic shortcomings that I have. They pretty much have more or less the same level in and the same reach in everything. If they have more or less the same education I was exposed to, they have again the same academic limitations in both aspects. But there are many different ways in which you can perceive life. If you try to measure it somehow, and I don't really see in my peers that need to actually be better in reality. I mean, just one simple example: trying to get to stay fit, for instance. As a 43-year-old man, I can confess that it's difficult. Sometimes I don't have the energy to wake up in the morning and work out. If I work out, I love to have at least between 20 to 40 minutes for myself to really, dedicate to my workouts. When I don't have that time, I feel too much, too pressured, and I don't give the best of myself. So, of course, dedicating time to work out and staying fit is something that requires a level of discipline. I know I have it. I know I have worked for it for a few years now. But I know for sure that not many men my age have because at least my friends don't. Few of them have a physical routine, very few. And I have lots of friends. I am, blessed with that. But that type of benefit in this life of knowing a lot of different people, having lots of friends. Not many men my age, my friends, people I know, like to work out. Again, it's not that I don't want to boast I don't want to sound like I'm praising myself by saying like yes I love to work out. Not really. I have developed the the inclination of staying fit because I know that it's good for my body. Because I realized a few years ago when I started to take my body seriously. That was when I turned 35. Too late there. For some people who say too late. I started thinking about my health at that age, and I decided to take on a sport, you know, get fit somehow, and I picked up martial art. I love martial arts, and martial arts was the only motivation I had to enter into something really similar to dojo because I got really bored with gym routines anyway. So I managed to get it. I got fit at that time, and since then that thing stuck it sticks to my very needs, like every other different craving that I will have about food, about sleeping when I'm sleep deprivation, or any other different need in general. This one is a need too. Okay, not to feel proud just because, but simply the fact that I see other men that are my age or older than me and want to keep themselves as fit as possible obviously make me admire them. But when I see that the majority of them don't even like or consider working out as something necessary at all. Maybe they say it just because it's the ideology behavior of simply just repeating whatever is good, but not for me. But maybe that is a situation that can happen. But then I, because of my position, because of my work, the position I have in this world, I get to see different examples in different levels because I got students that are younger than me and way younger than me, and I've had the experience of seeing different generations of them. Hello, Pedro! Finally here after so much time. Oh man, you're just leave on Fridays. I know, man. You are that busy. I know. I understand. I get the same craving as well. Pedro, enjoy. I really would love to have one of your crazy, awesome questions. Hear me out a little bit so you can see more or less what I'm trying to associate with these topics, right? All right, continuing with what I was saying. I got really excited. So I was saying that I have seen younger generations of people um, in different levels that I get to. I'm so blessed that I get to see this like a collage of images that happens exactly at the same time because I got in the same place people that I have been seeing for over 6 years and people that I'm seeing just at the moment. And I got these 6 year references and I can compare each one of the moments and I can get to see patterns that repeat in each one of those moments, but patterns that are similar and patterns that repeat. And I can help myself to, compare myself, my own experience as I was a kid, as I was a student with them. Because if you don't do it, you're not really honest with yourself. I mean, living life, it's living life necessarily by considering every different aspect, not just focusing in the now. You need to consider your past, and you need to consider your past in perspective to consider your future too. You need to understand what has been good all your life and what has been bad all your life for you, so you can take steps to correct if you need to correct, reinforce if you need to reinforce, etc., etc., etc. So living this, considering life from this perspective, if you do not see children's behavior, and you do not compare their behavior with your behavior, you will always feel like you're being left behind by the current generation all the time, since the current generation will not really care for you anymore. So if you're a human being and you just stick to your people, what I mean by your people is your age, and you do not really consider everyone as a human being, you will feel isolated. Eventually, you will feel that your taste will be only your taste and a few of your friends. You will feel that you will only see the world the way you see it, and nobody else pays attention to how what you say about life, etc., etc., etc. However, this particularly is awful when it comes to men. And what I mean by men, again, I'm speaking about the masculine gender of men, no matter how you want to present it. When you see that in a group, there is a huge situation. It's a situation that is being recorded even in markets. In every organization, there is like a 30% of the individuals that make the whole pool of work, the whole they pull the whole weight of work compared to the 70% that just simply follows along, tags along. Same situation happens in education. I mean, you got in a classroom 30% of kids that really, really make an effort. All the others just follow the example. If you have really good group, really good 30%, well, you have incredible results in a classroom. I'm saying it as a school teacher. And you can project the same thing to university. You can project the same thing to work. I mean, you got a couple of employees in a small organization that you can actually see how hard these people work, and you realize that the others simply just tag along. And I'm not really saying that this is, um, something to complain about. I'm trying, just I'm bemoaning uh, masculine laziness, but there's a little bit of that in toxic masculinity. The fact is, there is this tendency that that happens in groups, in which it's easier to follow a bad example than that one that is the good example. And it is not because the good example is terrible to perceive or is so cumbersome to accomplish. In reality, it is because of one defect that this toxic masculinity adds to all of us, including myself. Humans, male humans, have this problem. We always think awful of ourselves. One question that I ask my students sometimes when I get to see them trouble: tell me, what do you think you're good at? I really don't find good answers. I really don't. I really don't see. I don't hear them, like, digging in, looking inside themselves, and checking themselves out by understanding. Okay, I think I am good at this. They can't. They can't. The older they get, the easier this becomes for them. But the younger ones, the ones in their school time, it's difficult for them to really know how to assess that from themselves. Me comparing myself to that, to how I was back then, I was exactly like that. I really could not really tell what was my good thing, what was my game, my trick. I really don't know. I mean, I knew a little bit of everything. I knew a little bit of music. I knew a little bit of science. I knew a little bit of poetry, a little bit of literature, etc., etc., etc. So I thought, maybe one of these will be the area where I will dedicate to, as a professional. At that time, I thought of that, and I got to university, and I still did not know what I wanted to be. I spent years there, and I still did not know what I wanted to be. So you see, there are some people that study, get a degree, and still in their heads, they are still looking for answers, because a degree does not define you. You can even become a doctor, but if you don't want to be a doctor, I mean, if you don't want to work with people, you can be something totally different. You can be an engineer and work all your life in sales, the sales area of department of any company, pharmaceutics, for example. Why is it that we male have such a need to put down ourselves in such a way that we don't think that we could pursue more? Why is it that a few of us do that? And when we see, for example, our female counterparts, they are really high achievers. But the reason why they're really high achievers is because they had it against in many different ways. I mean, they had to prove themselves, not like us, because the market have always been a masculine market. So once women began to basically compete equally in every different aspect of life, um, they were the ones who had to prove that could do better somehow. And of course, you could hear that toxic comment like, "Oh, if she fails, well, that was expected because she is a woman." You know, that topic was always there in many aspects of our reality. How men underplay women by their way of existence, or simply just by being women. but simply just out of their male's own insecurity. Okay, we always felt that women could be definitely better, way better than us in everything. We only had physical strength above them. We only had just the physical strength as an advantage, but everything else women could definitely do better. There is no real logical explanation to say that we men will have a better conclusion over our problem simply because our mind is more logical or our mind is more organized. No, I get to see all the time at school how women score way higher in many different aspects and seem possibly seamless, possibly effortless. They seem to be all the time among the best. A few guys, and they are the strange ones, are among the best too. But the majority of guys, they just simply just nick themselves on the shoulder by saying like, "Ah, come on, I'm not doing anything. Are you?" No, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything either. Our work is the same everywhere. I have worked for many different organizations in my life, and it has always been like that. Me, in many different occasions, I've been the new, and I've always looked up for that senior that was giving me the great example, and very difficult finding one. I always found great partners, but I'm not speaking about that. I'm speaking about example of that person that wants to overcome themselves, overcome the difficulties of whatever conditions they are with. That was so strange. Couldn't see it. I had again great friends, great partners, great collaborators. We could do awesome stuff wherever I worked before. Awesome stuff. I got along. Again, even today, most of my great friends were people that worked with me in a different job. But among all those people that I'm telling you about, particularly in men, it's difficult for me to remember one of them whom I could say, wow, that guy was an example of that, thriving through every difficulty, like doing the best. In reality, they just, did what they could. Like myself, I didn't see anything that, I could see as um, an example that I could follow. For sure, I had to make my own example. And I did. I never thought that I was going to end up working in a place as I am working right now, which is again working at a school. It is an incredible experience because the other day I had to be confronted with the question of what do I feel as a teacher, right? What do I feel? How do I feel this experience to be forming me or teaching me in some way, somehow? And I managed to produce this answer. I said, well, there is a difference between, you know, the teacher as the person that is doing a job. In other places, they call them a jobber, which is, again, you got the job of teaching and you are responsible. You do it as best as you can. Sometimes you have good days, sometimes you have bad days. That happens. But then there is the other one, the not the teacher as the jobber, as the employee, but the teacher as the educator. The educator is a different one. Is that one that does not teach the pensum or the curriculum that is involved in teaching. That person is the person that somehow uses the need they have of overcoming themselves, overcoming their shortcomings, and making it by trying to make it better. They give and set an example. They teach with examples all the time. Those are the real good teachers. And somehow I have found that goal because of all different jobs I've had in my life. This one is the one that I've enjoyed the most. It's incredible because it's not that the one that's giving me the most money. Just thinking about that. However, I am building my life based on this. I have, uh, I've accepted the commitment of sticking to this lifestyle to project my life and in every different aspect of what means living as a school teacher, right? And it has so many different things to be considered in terms of the things that I have to renounce and the things that I have gained. Um, but again, in every job, you see the same situation, the same behavior. There is a 30% and that 70%. That 30%, the ones that push heavily, and there is that 70% that tag work along, etc., etc. But if you have a 30% that doesn't have the enough push, well, things can simply just go wrong badly very easily. And among male population, having terrible examples is so easy. I can tell by, for instance, the toxic behavior that has to be driven out little by little from every office, um, tries to be deleted little by little from every school classroom, which is, of course, the bullying. There shouldn't be any bullying whatsoever in reality, but there is a thing that is called bullying, and it is firstly fed, fed by this thing that we're denouncing, this toxic masculinity, this idea of not really wanting to improve because we don't deserve to improve. We are BS, and as BS, we are supposed to behave badly, and you know we're not supposed to improve in anything. So why making any effort whatsoever? This is where I'm going when I'm referring or denouncing this idea of toxic masculinity. And then I get to see every time that I check on my feed for new stories, new comics. As you know, I'm a super comic fan. Every time that I'm reading a new list of comics that are coming along, the superhero troop is the superhero trope, sorry, is one that never ceases to produce good stuff, really cool stuff, really awesome stuff, really thought-provoking stuff. I've been reading one that is supposed to be so used as a trope, the one of regress, retry, and the name of the story is called again re player, replayer, the return of a player. um it's so cliche, that name, my god. And in reality, when you get to read it, you will say, well, this is not supposed to be considered even a trope. It's supposed to be considered trash, but it's good trash. It's very entertaining. It's got every little aspect that you want to consider of a cool action story, and even the parts that are so stupid, like there is this whole arc in which the protagonist is living his life as a kindergarten student. What's so exciting about a kindergarten? Nothing, especially from the perspective of a 32-year-old man. But you had to read what happened there because of the action that took place. Not the story. The story was not compelling at all. I could scroll really fast. Again, this is really to be considered trash. But the action was beyond trash. The action was awesome. Okay? So if you're interested in reading some cool action, it's weird. Reading some cool action. You got that story. You can find it in webtoons, of course, or any other different place where you can read manhwa. Replayer. It's got over 60 chapters, I think now. And this again is the last one I'm reading of so many, so many, so many. I it's my hobby. If I have free time, I read mostly comics. I read a lot of different things, but mostly I read comics. And I read new all. I've been reading One Piece for more than 10 years. What? Almost more than 15 years. Yeah, myself. And like that, so many other different stories. So I'm telling you, people, I really know what I'm speaking about. And when it comes to this trope, the superhero one, the guy that has to overcome every single difficulty, the one that sticks out as the one odd out, the one that is strange, the ones that has that strange drive to not buying into things, that to not limit themselves, to not simply conform to the norm, that one that fought against all odds. Well, that was the epitome of what a superhero is supposed to be, what they are capable of doing. Why is it that we don't use, I mean, why is it that there is so much of that in fiction, that is, you know, the virtuality, and there's so little here in reality? Or maybe is that the correlation, that is so little in reality, so little of it, that we need to compensate by overflowing the content on the other side? Is it maybe because of that? Because come on, check different aspects of reality. You speak about politics, and particularly some of my students, the ones that are about to vote now, have been confronted to this question. Like, they hear their parents voting, and most of the comments that they say, we're gonna vote for the least of all evils. There's no hope. If you have two bad ones and you're gonna vote for the ones that is the less bad, come on. There's no hope. There is in reality no hope. But then they have to play along with reality. They have to vote because that's part of their citizenship duty. What type of face should they make when they are, participating in something that they absolutely believe that has no meaning? When in reality, whomever gets there, whomever gets in power, will do whatever they want to, even if that means taking really awful decisions that will affect the country. Yeah, yeah, we know that that's what's gonna happen. And we know that most of our voices can be heard in ways like I am doing right now, but beyond that, that's it. That's just a little bit more noise. That's what the only thing we add by expressing situations like this. And the reason for this is because so few of us are actually trying to do something different. So few in reality. Even once you get to search in every different niche, every different trend that you can see, the best ones are always a small group, and all the others from every trend are simply just tagging along, following the tropes. I think that it will be very interesting that we try to say, to see the media that we consume from a different perspective. Like, what is being said in this media about us? What is reflected in the media about us? Let's say, for example, my own laziness. How much is the MC that I am admiring in this story reflecting of my own laziness by, keeping myself fit? These people, let's say, if I read One Punch Man, this guy makes he just works out with a routine that is so simple: the 100 push-ups, the 100 squats, the 100 sit-ups. The most difficult one will be the little running that this person does, the 10-kilometer running, and the no air conditioning. Yeah, well, there no air conditioning can be a little bit heavy for some people, but still, the routine in itself is not that difficult. Can we stick to that routine to at least keep fit? I know I can't. I cannot run the 10K every day. I do a little bit of cycling, but I cannot do the 10K every day as I wish because I don't have the time. In reality, I don't. I wish I could. So I do other different things, but I cannot do the everyday thing. So in itself, I get inspired by the fiction that I read, and I understand how difficult reality is, right? By being inspired by the fiction I read, but I don't get inspired by my reality, by those people that live with me in this reality. What is the learning experience then? Follow your fiction. Sometimes fiction teaches a lot better than what reality does. Because in reality, you can easily get disappointed because we tend to highlight not the good, but the bad all the time. And like just at the moment in which I was reaching to my conclusion, it just sounds like the whole thing is super depressing. But it's not like that. You can simply just change the lane and go to the 30%. You can be part of the 30% in everything. It's up to you. You want to follow the group or you want to set your own trend. It's up to you in reality, to everyone, right? And that, my friends, is my association of this particular problem that we have with toxicity, toxic masculinity, sorry, and versus, sorry, the superhero trope. So now we are open for questions of anyone in the comments side, in YouTube or in Instagram, whatever topic that you're interested in about, or even regarding everything we said. We all know that what we speak about is obviously coming from principles that we put in practice about everything that we have learned in life regarding everything. I mean, all the way from philosophy to religion to sports to um, literature, lots of fiction, and reality mostly. So comments are welcome. We hoping for you to come up with something cool. Now, in the meantime, announcements as we always do. Um, we all know that we worked in these sessions that we have been working with you guys for most of the last Fridays have been something that is mostly like a work in progress, as you can see. um, we have I've been trying to improve a lot in the way we express ourselves in front of our of the camera. We have tried to work the set to make it better and friendlier, to invite a better appreciation of what you guys could see. I'm still working on how I can maybe incorporate other different details. Uh, we are still learning. It's not that easy sometimes because, again, there's a lot of time that is required for this process. We have not really been speaking about how to actually um, monetize this type of work. We do it mostly out of the appreciation that we have for the people that might hear what we do, and that in itself is the motivation that we have for doing this. But of course, we're welcoming anyone who wants to uh, hire our services. And remember that our services are on the area of uh, aiding the process of language acquisition, because that's what we are. We are language consultancy agency that is working on aiding that process, specifically in two languages, from English to Spanish or Spanish to English. And people that have had issues, have struggled with this particular situation, these people can find that we have a lot of different ways to help you. So if you're interested, you can contact us in one of simple message comment that you leave here. And if not, well, we have a webpage here in A-létheia. In Gmail, we have our three accounts, even Facebook is included. So give us a knock, hit us, and we will hit you back. Okay? Well, I don't have any comments. I thought that, well, we had one person there, but I think that Pedro couldn't stay. If we if you guys leave a comments for the video later, because the video is gonna be staying on the platform that allows it to be seen for a while, at least in Instagram is like that, and YouTube is gonna be remaining there in our archives, so you guys can watch it whenever you want to, as well as all the others. And we are hoping you guys have any type of feedback about how we have progressed along the time. Oh, here we have one of the comments, the one that I was expecting for Mr. Pedro. And to ask something, there you go, but don't know how to phrase it yet. Wake me up for a bit. Okay, man, don't worry. Let's see. In the meantime, I did mention that I've been reading quite a lot and of the same trope, right? Let me quickly check on the list of stories that I've been reading so you guys can have an idea of some of the cool ones. And if you are interested, guys, about me making any type of analysis of one in particular from the list of the ones I'm going to mention, well, you guys are welcome. All right. While Pedro is preparing for his question, let me check. Okay, I did mention the one I was reading just now. Re Hero. Okay, that's the name. Re hyphen Hero. Manwha. That one. Then you got okay. Quickly, I can check one that is auto play. Autoplay is a new one from Shonen Jump. That one is a manga. There is one that is called the Demon Warrior of the manhwa. This one is a marine story or wuxia story, but it's Korean. Is manhwa, though sometimes it does resemble manhwa. Sorry, does resemble a little bit the Chinese style, but it's a cool one. I mean, it's entertaining because the protagonist is a total psycho, but it works in the type of world that he is living. I mean, to be a psycho in that world really pays off. There is one that I dropped recently that is called "I Picked a Hammer to Save the World." It had some moments, but the main character, it's a kid that is supposed to be an adult, but he's so obnoxious in his way of being a kid because as an adult he behaves as a kid, and as a kid he behaves as that adult that behaves as a kid, and it doesn't really work for me. I mean, that juxtaposition of the same personality doesn't really make it. It the comebacks, the way of the dialogue, the poison of the person's character. It's just not working for me. The action is cool, but not that good of a story. There is one that is considered trash, but it's entertaining. It is the Sword Demon Island. Sword Demon Island, exactly. That's the name. Again, it's trash, but it's entertaining trash. There is one that is called the Sleeping Rancor. I dropped it very recently after beginning it because I couldn't really I couldn't really see that whatever they did at the beginning was gonna become better after later on. I obviously, got distracted with new stories anyway. There is one that possibly is not it's not finished. It might actually finish, end up in a cliffhanger, but the story is really thrilling. It's called Dead Night Counter. This one is edgy and dark, but it's cool. I mean, this guy Dead Knight. So you guys know that it's a uh, undead. In the same order of ideas, there's one that I am almost up to date. That is called The Skeleton Couldn't Protect the Dungeon. Man, that story is incredible in terms of a world building, how complex the character is. He doesn't have superpowers per se, at least not at the beginning. They develop them little by little, but it's mostly a weakling, the main character, and especially if it is a skeleton soldier. We all know that these are the the tropes of the worst ones. Hello, Mr. Shamey. Then let me see another story here. Okay, Shaman by Hong Wong Pyo. It's a really good story, but it's going slowly. It's really going slowly, but it's a really a good story. It's about kind of like Naruto story about ninjas going against other ninjas from one place to another place. But these guys are shamans. They fight with spirits, and it's interesting. Student based story, so it's fresh. And then let me see. There was the Lone Necromancer. Um, One of those stories that was obviously influenced by solo leveling. Not the best one, but sometimes entertaining. I can compare it with a reader's point of view. The reader's point of view was potentially a really good story for me. At least what the version of it that is in web novel. The adaptation in manhwa is not bad at all. It's got, I think that it was collaborated by some of the illustrators that worked in Solo Leveling too. Problem with that story for me, something that couldn't make it was that the confrontations and fighting did not really involve any martial experience or martial perception or technique or whatsoever. It was just like a matter of games of tricks of stuff that you should know just for it to work. Like if you step this way instead of that way, then this will work. I really lost interest after a while, and I was pretty advanced. I was possibly close to the 100th chapter. Let's see. Let's keep going. I was okay. Famous one. Mashoku Tensei. Everybody should know what this story is about. But to be honest, I'm mostly of anime only. Haven't really checked the manga. But I did check the counterpart story of this one that is the Korean version is the beginning after the end. I am up to date with the beginning of the after the end, and it's definitely a really good story. I wish the art was as good as the story is, but the art is a little bit weak sometimes. It's made by two artists, but possibly I think that they did not have the best use of technology when it comes to how they complete some of the graphics that they made. I mean, I love solo leveling. You could tell because of I mentioned it so many times already. And once you have read and watched the graphics, the illustration of solo leveling art, it's difficult for you to perceive one that tries to be close but ends up short, like it happens in the case of the beginning after the end. If the beginning after the end wanted to be a little bit goofier, then that would be different. But that was not the case. The beginning after the end, the artists seem to have been taking the story a little bit more serious than intended for the skill that they're showing. Again, I wish the art was better. Um, there was one that I dropped because of the lore was becoming too blurry. That was Book Eater, about a magician that becomes powerful by the books they ate. Then there is this another one about another magician that is called The Mage Returns After 3,000 Years. Yeah, the name sounds trashy, but the story is really entertaining. The main character is not boring at all, and the situation that happens in the story is not boring at all. At all. Then let's say uh, Kill the Hero. Kill the Hero is a really interesting story. It's once again a story about regression, portals, medieval warfare. Um, the action is quite entertaining, but more than the action, the plots, because this is a revenge story within a story of um, the typical Dungeons and Dragons scenario, and at the same time reality slash isekai. Uh, this story is very interesting in the aspect of that conditions for the revenge of the main character as the motive. Spoilers ahead. Of the regression of the main character was, you know, revenge for the crimes committed by this particular guild lord. And the plots themselves are so intricate that you can get lost a little bit, right? Especially, I mean, if you are not familiar with Korean names, you can easily get lost. But it sticks to the same um, pace that a good, like a good revenge story is supposed to have, despite the fact that it doesn't shows you clear objectives. You know who the last objective is gonna be, and you know who the proxy sacrifice is gonna be, but you don't know characters per se. You have the reactions of a full community. Sometimes you perceive that maybe this main character is actually taken against the whole world of these superhero um, fighters. You got, let's see, we're closing to the end now. Real life player, I mentioned that already. The Life. The Life was a story that got me so hooked up to chapter 100. And after chapter 100, I lost interest. The graphics, the illustration is incredible. The story, another revenge based story, and again, another warrior isekai, medieval warfare type of story. This one, it was against demons, demons from the other world. But story suddenly just became boring. I don't know how the author can make a story boring after a while. I try my best to continue on the story, but after chapter 100, everything that they had included just seemed to have made me lost interest. Anyway, and with the story we're finishing today, because I got so many different stories as of late, so many reality, is one that is called LAG. I think that I will make this story one particular video on its own because the story deserves it. LAG is what you get if you wanted to use the principles of, um, let's say, Battle Royale, one. Let's say, Isekai video game. Let's say, Jigsaw, the movie franchise from the US, Jigsaw, and let's say Re Life. No, Re, the original Re, the one that was the anime, with the guy that uses death to overcome his enemies. Um, Imagine that you merge all these four into one. The story is incredible. In reality, it's it doesn't really use too much of exposition. I am in over chapter over. I think it's over 80, I guess, and I don't know anything about the world. In reality, it's just know that it's like a never-ending dungeon, apparently. Okay, and the main character is has gone through a regression again because obviously got killed. And in that kill, you learn that anyone can betray you. Okay, and as anyone can betray you, you begin with a sort of a doom expectative for the future, right? Like it's anonymous, ominous future, whatever is coming to you, you know it's gonna be bad because you have the idea that you possibly will not be able to trust anyone in this world. However, the main character finds finally some people, and they stick around for a while. And until the last chapter, you guys have to see the last chapter. I don't know what has happened to them, but man, this story is really delivers it. Chapter after chapter, chapter after chapter, chapter after chapter. I can enjoy way more a story like this than any of the series, superhero series that you have, for example, in Netflix or in Amazon Prime or in what's the other one? Disney. I mean, they have names, they have the technology, etc., etc. But when it comes to stories that are really original, even though they are tropes, generic, oh my god, whatever they have to offer, best of the best. So LAG, my strongest recommendation for tonight. Okay, I got Pedro. All right, let's see what Pedro has. Let me move this a little bit so I can read better. As of today, I'm sure you've come across Andrew Tate. Oh my God, of course, content or heard about him at least once. Now he's basically become a meme, of course, but still, he really managed to influence jokes heavily. Every once in a while, I'd see news where teachers will say how their sixth grade kids were blustering, misogynist commentary, and showing very toxic behaviors. What's your opinion about all this? Well, speaking about toxicity, that's actually something that works perfectly with the example of what we're referring to from the perspective of content creation. Again, what makes someone as Andrew Tate or any one of the blue pill guys, because that's how they call them, on the internet, because as they are commentators, social commentators, that they do not use up speech. They do not use, in this case, they do not speak about ways in which people can be better as trying to pursue a better integral way of being. Instead, they are like the Sith Lords, the ones that want to preach you to use your dark side to make you better, because that dark side apparently it hides a lot of power. Sorry for the Star Wars analogy, but it's really important for what I'm trying to explain. Um, when they put the whole situation of men and women in the gameplay that they use of words, of categories, they feed a narrative that disregards many other different aspects by highlighting something that is completely true of what happens when a bunch of boys that have no contact with women at all start fantasizing to each other, okay, about what will be the best way for them to get advantage of girls. That's that idea that is basically the failure of many cultural dispositions that people have had in history of separating the genders, separating women this side, men this side, respect, no contact, etc., etc. That's so stupid. That is definitely the stupidest thing that humanity has ever done, because men and women both, men and women, don't have much to differ with one another. Men and women are pretty much almost the same thing, except that one has the hormones necessary to produce another being, and the other one only has the chance of giving a little bit of seed. But that's it, right? Both have equally everything that is required to be alive as a human being, to represent humanity. A man can represent humanity as much as a woman can represent humanity. Okay? If aliens took any of the two of them and they said, okay, this is humanity, we could all agree, yes, this is humanity, because there are no other ways to perceive humanity. You got men and women. But having them separated begins to develop, not develop, sorry, open the instances of narratives that are toxic, because that's how toxicity becomes, I think. All right. These narratives simply observe the obvious, stupid things like a woman has has now weighed the capacity of lifting this much weight that I am capable of lifting. We all know that's not true, because it all depends on circumstances. If there is this boy that's never, ever, ever worked weights, and then there is this girl that regularly lifts weights, it is very likely that this girl is gonna lift more weight than this boy, in case both of them had to do it. Some people will say, yeah, but men will have more advantage. Doesn't really matter. We're speaking about simply the capacity of lifting the weight, not about who has more comfort or less comfort. At the very end, everything is here. If a woman wants to lift some weight, she will make her brain be capable of adapting herself to lift that weight. If a man has to do the same, of course, the same thing can happen. And of course, the opposite will happen when a man basically simply doubts himself at the moment of lifting some weight, and injuries can happen because, as a product of the doubt, you have the accident. Andrew Tate is more or less like the last example of a tendency that should have died years ago. That tendency of the locker room cocking behavior. That guy that speaks by lifting one of his legs and putting it on top of the sitting area of the dressing rooms, and said like, "Oh, I've had three girlfriends just in one weekend." Stuff like this, and they start putting themselves as above any other girl just because they've had the experience of being with many girls. And of course, they begin by stating that the way they are successful is because they obey the most instinctive behavior of how men are supposed to be this and this and that. Narrative. That is all narrative. That is all a really old narrative that should have died many years ago. And you can see that this has even aged badly, because you have had examples of this in the past. There's this comedian that you can find, Pedro, if you want to check. It's called uh, Andrew Dice Clay. Andrew Dice, as the dice game, Clay. And that guy was a comedian that became super famous No, he was famous before he became super famous by a bit that he made in which he was supposedly making a satire of this type of men, the men that are the super macho men that underplay the position of women. Now, of course, many boys identify with people like Andrew because the same thing I've just been explaining. It's easier to follow a terrible example because you don't have the contact with the other thing. A human being, I said before, is both, is man and is woman, right? Women and men together they form humanity. But if I isolate my whole living experience in this world with only men, I am definitely lacking one aspect of this human experience. I am simply just closing one eye in reality and not really perceiving the other thing. In reality, I think that everything that we do, we should do it, men and women. Like there should be men and women in the war. There should be men and women in construction. There should be men and women everywhere. Why? Because we men need to understand how it is to work out alongside a woman. So we don't stop underplaying a woman's behavior or a woman's role. She adds a lot to work that we don't conceive, that we don't perceive, that we don't understand. And we collaborate with other stuff that they don't understand or they don't put or they don't use at the moment. But not like just because we're men and just because they're women, just because we are individuals. And there are predispositions from both sides that help this dynamic. Men are much better men once they have more contact with women. Women are much better women, more self assured, self secure, when they began to have more contact with men. If women simply are overprotected as women that only deal with other women are, you know that it's very likely that these women become extremely fragile to see things about reality, and particularly when dealing with men, which is a heavy thing for reality because then we all know what happens with those men that have no ways, no education towards women and see women like this. Those are the type of men that feel that they should behave as the bullies, as these other women will extremely underplay the role of being fragile. That's the situation that happens. So, I'm sorry if some of my audience consider this idea of mentioning men and women like this as too generalistic, but it is important that you understand the spirit of the comment that we try to share tonight when we are referring to this toxic masculinity. This toxic masculinity is simply just a reflect of lack of self-esteem. Simply just that. It's like a general lack of self-esteem that men have that make us use crutches like social crutches to support ourselves, to lean on each other's shoulder, and perpetrating a terrible behavior. We don't need to do that. We can actually do better. And I do hope I answered the question, Mr. Pedro. Now, if you want us to expand on this, we can actually make a full episode specifically related to some of the themes worth on the narrative of the blue pill people. But terrible thing that happens of many boys today that are isolated, that they don't know how to contact how to have a contact with women. And I'm speaking about contact with women, I'm not speaking about sexually, I'm speaking about simply just socializing. It's healthy that men and women share similar spaces. It's healthy. That's the only thing I can tell about these things. Well, people, we made 1 hour 14 minutes. I think this is one of the longest we've made. And I think this is one of the best ones too, even though we only had Pedro live and Mr. Shamey on Instagram, not many people, but we know that these comments and what we said tonight will stay online for a while and will reach out many people that might actually find it interesting. And we are so grateful for it. Okay? So, people, remember, you can follow us Instagram, Facebook, or and YouTube. Make any comment, leave us any comment in case you are interested in using our services to aid you in your whole process of ESL. If any other doubt, obviously you can leave your comment too. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Shamey. Thank you, all people, for being here tonight and for the rest of the life of this video, as long as it is kept on the platform. Have a great night. So, let's see. Land that here. Yes. And here. Bye bye, Mr. Pedro and everyone. I think.